And Gary Lineker sparked outrage after his latest political outburst on Twitter saw the BBC presenter criticise Suella Braverman. Reacting to pro-Palestine activists planning to march on Remembrance Sunday and indeed Armistice Day, the Home Secretary said it's entirely unacceptable to desecrate Armistice Day with a hate march through London. To which Saint Gary Lineker responded, marching and calling for a ceasefire and peace so that more innocent children don't get killed is not really the definition of a hate march. Well, reacting to this is Fleet Street legend, former founder and CEO of TalkSport Radio, Kelvin Mackenzie. So, Kelvin, this one's a shocker, isn't it? You know about sort of talent that go a little bit AWOL, that go rogue. Would you put up with this behaviour if you were a media proprietor from the likes of Gary Lineker? Is it acceptable?
If he works for TalkSport, he goes and works for ITV, or he goes and works for TNT, he can work for whoever he likes, as long as I don't have to pay for his views. I object to the fact that part of my licence fee goes to his... Look, he's entitled to earn what he wants to earn. He makes 1.2 million a year, and he could earn a lot more, I suspect. I don't want him to talk about things like Palestine. I don't want him to talk about Israel. I don't want him to talk about poverty. I want him to talk about the fact that Tottenham got beaten tonight 4-1. You know, that's fine. And I'm not saying he's a fool or anything like that. I object. And what I can't understand is why there is a Director General, a CEO of a company, who can't say to him, look, mate, it's been great. Here we are. We'll pay your contract up. Just bugger off. And if you've got any views, please give them to somewhere else. He knows that his entire political standing and the fact that his tweets mean anything are connected to the fact that he works for the BBC. He knows that if he works for TalkSport and he suddenly says, you know, he's running the breakfast show on TalkSport, then nobody gives a damn about it. Yeah. I don't. I object to my money going into his pocket and him giving him views I radically disagree with.
Most definitely, and it tells you that there's a failure of management at the B, because I don't think any of the other presenters would get away with it.
Well, they all hate it. They absolutely detest it. All that mob on the Today programme, who probably have the biggest intellects now currently at the BBC, they keep on saying, how is it he can talk about Palestine and Israel? And the minute we step outside the line, we're in trouble. So there is one rule for him. And what they say about him is that he's a sport freelance or something like that.
Correct.
Now, the majority of his money, I'd be very interested whether HMRC agree with that, because it's normally defined, your freelance is how much money that particular role brings in. And if it's a percentage that's too high against your total earnings, then you are considered an employee. And so I imagine he's heading towards that, since he seems to be cutting down. Now, the good news is that the BBC have one match of the day again, which takes it to 2029. By the way, that's 71 million quid of our money. But the other thing is, the last thing that 62-year-old Mr. Lineker said was that he was heading towards the end of his time. So I suspect there's half a deal in the works where, when this contract runs out, he finally says, after what has been a phenomenal run, a 25-year run on television, thank you and good night. And that way, everybody will be happy. We're not on his case. And the BBC bosses don't have to keep defending him all the time. It's a ludicrous waste of everybody's time.
Has he been terribly misjudged? Isn't he just a lovely guy that's worried about people dying in the Middle East?
Well, look, that may well be true.
Is he a lovely guy? Is he as pure as the driven snow?
Well, I had a round of golf with him once. I don't think he liked me very much.
Did you thrash him?
No, I didn't, actually. He's a pretty good golfer. He's got plenty of time to do it. And no, he didn't.
Were you in the sand? Be honest, Kelvin.
He didn't speak to me very much, and I don't blame him, to be honest. That's the role most people have. But at the end of his time, this may be the end of his time, and that will be good.
OK, there you go. Well, look, the BBC recently published new guidance on social media following a review by former TV executive John Hardy. Hardy said high-profile presenters outside of journalism should be able to express views on issues and policies, including matters of political contention, but stop well short of campaigning in party politics or for activist organisations. It's clear the BBC and the public expect the BBC non-news presenters to maintain high standards on social media and respect an appropriate balance between impartiality and freedom of expression. Now, Kelvin, you're going to love this story. The UN's poverty czar has told the Guardian newspaper, of all people, that British universal credit payments are too low and that the government is violating international law. So the UN aren't happy. Are you quaking in your boots?
I couldn't give a toss about what the UN say about anything. I mean, their current standing on the Middle East is utterly degrading for most of the global people. So the bottom line on this is this guy, who cares what he has to say about it? There are poverty problems around the world. Go to Africa, go perhaps probably to the Middle East, go to lots of places. The one place where there is not a problem, when you throw in all the benefits, housing benefit, universal credit, in-work benefits, there are 1,000,001 benefits. The reason that people like coming here is because of the benefits. We don't hear that from this guy. So this guy says, I need some publicity. And by the way, Labour look as though they're going to come in, and Labour love handing over loads of money to people who don't do any work or don't produce anything.
And what about this interference from an unelected body like the UN? And we don't want to take lectures from them, do we?
Have you been taking lectures from them?
This will be leveraged by the likes of The Guardian and probably opposition MPs, won't it? They'll be lapping this up.
I wouldn't worry too much about The Guardian. They've got enough problems of their own. And I would think that
You're their only reader, aren't they?
I am currently their only tweeter, because I love their stuff, because I read it, then I tweet about it, and tens of thousands of people then join in on my side, so they can carry on. But the truth is, I have no idea why he would say this about universal credit. I mean, universal credit is a great thing, and people want there to be some kind of safety bowl in life, but what they don't want it to be is basically a huge car and God knows what else.
But do you know what I'm getting tired of, Kelvin, is this sort of hobby, this sport of bashing Britain. I think it's punishment for Brexit. I mean, look at the sort of very unreliable forecasting we've had from the IMF with regard to our economy, which have been proved wrong. During COVID, we were plague island. Well, actually, our COVID outcomes compared quite well in the end to Germany and others. Meanwhile, now, apparently, we don't have enough benefits. This is just British bashing, don't you think?
Well, one of the great things about our media is that we do give the critics a bigger show than we actually give things that go well. For instance, if we take today, everybody says that we're skint in this country, right? You can't meet anybody. The middle class is, it's terrible. Right, we now discover that new car sales in October are 14% up on last year, and that Ryanair had such a great summer that their profits have gone up 24%. Everybody went on holiday. Everybody you meet goes on holiday, right? So everybody's skint. Oh, I'm so skint, I must buy that new car. I'm so skint, I must go on my third holiday. It is complete cobblers. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are in a little bit of trouble. Most of the country is doing just great and living a great life.
We also found out today that Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, might have an extra 6 or 7 billion to play with because that fiscal headroom is better than, surprise, surprise, the OBR predicted. Listen, Kelvin, Nigel, should he go into the jungle, Nigel Farage?
Yes, he should.
Okay.
It'd be fantastic. First of all, he's a very clever bloke, a very engaging guy.
Correct.
And what he will be doing is reshaping the vile Nigel kind of personality into a very cuddly kind of guy. And people say, well, he's not a bad guy. And then the next thing, and I think we've discussed this before, he'll nip into the Conservative Party and he'll be the leader of the Conservatives, and they will go back to having an 80-seat majority in 2029.
I think he probably could do 3 terms like Thatcher, couldn't he?
No, he couldn't. But nevertheless...
Well, if he's got your energy... Listen, what about you? You must have been approached by ITV many times. Would you be tempted to spend time with a bunch of reptiles?
Well, the issue there is what happens is I have been approached about 2 or 3 times, and each time I've shown interest in it because I know it sounds strange. I quite enjoy the idea of a couple of $100,000, right? And the thing is that whenever push came to shove, somebody had had a quick look at my Wikipedia, and they said we can't have a tosser like him in there, and boom, I'm out the door.
Ratings would go through the roof.
Yes, not in some parts of the country. I would think the northwest we might be challenged.
I think Nigel this year, you next year. If you do go into the
Dan Wootton the year after.
Listen, love to see Dan back on the box. Listen, here's the thing, right? If you got the celebrity right, would you be down to David Lloyd lifting a few weights just to get ready for the shower scene?
Look, my body.
Or would it be with the Kelvin Mackenzie fitness routine?
My body is a cathedral, and I don't need any help.
And you've had balls in your mouth in the past, haven't you? So you've been finding those.
That's working for Rupert.
Those bush tugger trials. Listen, there you go. Look, we don't do boring, do we? Thank you, Kelvin. See you in a week's time.
See you.